Hey everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about a game that you can play with your class if you're struggling to help them understand opinion writing. So, for the last week and a half, I've been working with a couple classes that have just really been struggling with their persuasive writing. Um, Last week, I was having a hard time getting to them to participate, getting them to write anything at all. And they were really, really struggling with the idea of coming up with reasons to support the argument they were trying to make. And they were having a hard time coming up with reasons in general, but also just understanding the idea of coming up with reasons. And then these were fifth graders, so this shouldn't have been a foreign concept to them, but they were not understanding the idea of coming up with three reasons to support their argument. And beyond that, they were, you know, if they couldn't even understand coming up with reasons to support their argument, the idea of coming up with evidence to support those reasons, that was even farther off their radar. And so after a very frustrating first week where I was beginning to wonder, like, if I was even going to be able to get them to write two paragraphs, I decided to change tactics. And I walked in on Monday and I said, okay, instead of getting started writing today, we're going to start off with a game. And I came in and I played a game with them that I've played with a few other classes, and I call it the opinion game. Usually, I use it in third grade when we're talking about opinion writing, um, and it's actually caused some tears in third grade. And so I suggest not playing it with girls versus boys. Like, it's a little too competitive. But the way it works is it's a family feud style game. And what I did is I said, okay, who is having a hard time coming up with reasons for their topic? They're writing persuasive essays. And so everyone has a topic like, that they're trying to persuade their audience of, like, um, everyone needs to get 9 hours of sleep, or cats are better than dogs, or all weekends should be 3-day weekends, or whatever, right? And so I said, well, who's having a hard time coming up with reasons to support their topic? And people would raise their hands and say what their topic was. Everyone had like a double-sided paper with, I have like 75 different topics that they could have chosen from, and they could have chosen their own topic, but most of them chose off this paper. So they just shouted out like the number that they'd chosen. So I wrote the different numbers up there of what people were struggling with. And then I divided them up into 4 different teams, and every team got one of these, nice little beepers. Oh, this one's not making any noise. Oh, because I didn't turn it on. Okay. And then I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to read out the topic. The first team that pushes their button gets the first chance to answer. You have to give me a reason for why someone should agree with you, should agree with that statement. Everyone should get 9 hours of sleep, or Wi-Fi should be available everywhere. Whatever the statement was that we're agreeing with. And after that, you have 5 or 10 seconds or whatever to give me another reason and another reason. And the goal is that you want your team to give me 3 good reasons, and I will be the judge if they are good reasons and different reasons. You can't give me the same reason, said a few different ways. And they tried that, of course. And if you can give me 3 separate good reasons, then your team gets 3 points. But if you try to give me the same reason twice, or if you can't come up with another reason, then your team loses that, and I give the other chance as a team to steal. And I say, okay, to other teams, you can steal, and they can buzzer in. And if they can give me, another answer, they can steal. If it's only the second reason, the other team has to give me 2 more reasons. Anyways, whichever team can give me the third reason gets all 3 points. So like the second team, I'd only give me the second reason. If they can't give me the third reason, then I throw it out to the teams again. Ooh, does anyone want to steal? And whoever can give me the third reason gets all 3 points. Okay, so we played it that way for a little while, and then I switched it up on them. And I said, okay, we're switching it up. Now, what you have to do is you can't just give me a reason. You have to prove it to me. So not only do you have to give me a reason, but you have to give me evidence for that reason. And I reminded them that there's a few different forms of evidence, okay? And I've been talking to them about this. So I said, okay, remember, there's a few different forms of evidence, and you can open your Chromebooks for them for this. And so I told them, I want to split your teams into two, one person to give me reasons and some people to give me evidence. The few different kinds of evidence that you can give me are one, what I told them was like expert evidence. These are things like studies, statistics, expert opinions, right? Like news articles, if you can find like a news article about it. And so that's like an expert evidence. And then the other kind of evidence that we've been talking about is I told them that this is called anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence is being able to tell me a story that proves your point. It can be a story of something you've experienced, someone you know has experienced something that proves your point, or if you can find a story from someone in a news story or somewhere on the internet, as long as you can show that it's an actual person, it actually happened. Then you can back it up with a story, okay, that proves the point you're trying to make. And then the last kind of evidence that I talked to them about is what I called interactive evidence. And interactive evidence is basically like thought experiments. Like, imagine if this was you, and you did this and you did this, and what would you do? Like one kind of interactive evidence that we did for the persuasive essay that we're writing as a class together that I'm modeling for them. The topic that they picked for us to write about is internet access should be free for everyone. And the first reason that we decided on was that it will give more people economic opportunities, right? And it'll help people find jobs. And so we had people engage in the thought experiment of this. We worded it like this. The last time you were looking for a job, where did you go to look to find job openings? Probably the internet. And how did you apply for those jobs? Probably on the internet. And where did you update your resume? Probably on the internet. Okay. And so that's sort of more of an interactive, because you're just asking people to think about their experiences, how they do things, how they think about things. So I reminded them of what the three different forms of evidence were that they could use. And so then after that, I read out the topic, I have them buzzer in, and I have them just give me one reason with evidence. If they can do that, I give them the point. And then I give each team the opportunity to give me one reason with evidence. Give them a point. One reason with evidence, all for the same topic. If they can do that, everyone gives me a point. If they struggle with that one, I have them do it again with a different topic. Usually by the time we finish one of those rounds, it's really sunk in. And so I kind of call it quits after that. It's usually taken 10 to 15 minutes by the time I've done this. And I say, okay, does everyone understand the concept now of reasons for your argument and evidence for your argument? And by this time, everyone is having a fun time and they're excited and they're shouting, yeah, we get it. And they're ready to start writing. And again, because I've also been doing topics that people were struggling with in their writing, I also, throughout the game, as we were going through topics and people were giving reasons, I would shout out like, hey, if this was your topic and you were struggling to come up with reasons, I hope you're taking notes with the reasons that people were giving. Like, these were some good reasons. I hope you were taking mental notes or writing that down, because it's like brainstorming as a class, right? So we're kind of helping each other out. But this is a really fun game. Like I said, I've played it with third grade when they first start writing opinion paragraphs, because they try to give you reasons like, they try to give you reasons for their opinion, like it's good or it's nice. And so we play this game, and I make the rules like, okay, you're going to give me reasons for this, but the rules are you can't say that it's good or it's nice or it's fun. You have to give me a better reason than it's good or it's nice or it's fun, or it's bad, right? You have to give me a good reason. But you can play it with older kids as like the opinion game, where they have to actually give you like good researched reasons. Okay. So it's flexible. It's flexible by age. It's flexible by topic. So I highly recommend that you make use of this game for your students. Change it up in whatever ways you need. It's really fun. It gets kids to start participating, to start thinking. It's always good to get a little bit of competitiveness in there. And if you were wondering, 2 sessions of writing later, a little bit of bribing with chocolate. I have approximately half the class now. Last week, I most of them I couldn't even get a paragraph out of them. 2 sessions later, probably half the class has their full 5-paragraph essay written. It has been a miracle. So I am so proud of them. So I hope this has been helpful for you.